I think that Putin afraid that the United States will deliver us Tomahawks.
After the latest meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky in Washington, discussions about the potential transfer of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine have temporarily quieted, but that does not mean the plan is off the table. In reality, Washington is reassessing how best to use this powerful weapon system as leverage against Moscow. Trump has reportedly concluded that the only language Vladimir Putin understands is the language of force, and that military pressure, not concessions, is what keeps the Kremlin in check. What happened in the days surrounding the meeting further underlined this shift. Just one day before the Washington talks, Putin himself initiated a phone call with Trump, despite the Kremlin's earlier refusal to engage in direct dialogue. This reversal was widely seen as an attempt to persuade Trump not to approve the delivery of Tomahawks to Ukraine, a clear sign of how deeply Moscow fears the introduction of such long-range precision weapons into the conflict. The call, rather than projecting confidence, revealed anxiety inside the Russian leadership about Ukraine's growing strike capabilities and the limits of Russia's ability to respond. Meanwhile, sources suggest Putin continues to press for Ukraine to withdraw from the Donbass region as a condition for halting hostilities. Yet this demand only exposes his weakness. Having failed to secure decisive victories on the battlefield, he now seeks through diplomacy what his army could not achieve through war. It is a negotiation from a position of loss, not strength. This dynamic has not gone unnoticed in Washington. Trump, who once viewed Putin as a rival worth respecting, now reportedly sees him as a beaten and isolated leader, a man who gambled on war and lost both prestige and leverage. Putin's repeated calls for ceasefires and his appeals to avoid Western escalation reveal a man struggling to contain a conflict that has turned against him. The image of the Russian president as a strong man has eroded. He is no longer dictating terms but reacting to them, no longer setting the pace of the war but attempting to limit its consequences. Each new Ukrainian success, each new Western weapon discussed, further exposes his inability to control events. In that sense, Putin's biggest defeat is not just military. It is psychological and strategic. He wanted to reshape the global order through force, but now he is forced to beg for restraint. And that is the clearest proof that in this war, Putin has already lost. Russia lost at least 100,000 troops killed since January 2025, while capturing only 0.4% of Ukrainian territory, with total losses reaching 984,000 to 1.4 million troops, including 190,000 to 480,000 killed, The Economist reports. Russia's large-scale summer offensive in Ukraine has once again ended in disappointment, despite the Kremlin's heavy investment of men and machines. The operation, promoted as a decisive push to finally shift the balance of the war, resulted in only minor territorial adjustments while consuming vast human and material resources. The offensive followed a familiar Russian pattern: initial optimism, massive bombardments, heavy assaults, and finally stagnation against resilient Ukrainian defenses. Moscow's generals concentrated tens of thousands of troops and substantial quantities of armor in eastern Ukraine, hoping to exploit Ukrainian shortages and exhaustion. Yet the defenders, deeply entrenched and supported by an increasingly sophisticated network of drones, artillery, and electronic warfare, managed to repel nearly all Russian attempts at breakthrough. The result was another campaign of attrition, with high casualties and little to show for it on the map. Russian losses continue to climb at a staggering rate. Estimates suggest that by mid-October 2025, total Russian personnel losses, killed, wounded, missing, or captured, had reached between 984,000 and 1.4 million. Of these, roughly 190,000 to 480,000 are believed to have been killed in action. The ratio of losses remains strongly unfavorable to Moscow, with roughly 5 Russian soldiers dying for every Ukrainian. These numbers reflect not only the intensity of the fighting, but also the poor tactical adaptation of Russian forces and their continuing dependence on mass assaults rather than maneuver warfare. Despite the vast expenditure of lives and ammunition, Russia's territorial gains are almost symbolic. At the current pace of advance, analysts estimate it would take Russia until 2030 merely to consolidate control over the territories it already claims, and more than a century to conquer all of Ukraine. Such projections expose the profound inefficiency of the Russian military machine and the futility of trying to achieve strategic success through brute force alone. The material toll is equally severe. Hundreds of tanks, armored vehicles, and artillery systems have been destroyed or abandoned during the offensive. Satellite imagery and battlefield videos show convoys decimated by precision strikes, while Ukraine's expanding use of long-range drones has made rear logistics increasingly vulnerable. Russia's defense industry continues to produce replacement equipment, but much of it consists of refurbished Soviet-era stock, unable to match modern Western-supplied Ukrainian systems in quality or survivability. For Ukraine, holding the line under these conditions is itself a strategic success. Every failed Russian offensive reinforces the perception that the invader has reached its operational limits. Ukrainian forces are managing to stabilize fronts despite ammunition shortages and a constant need for Western resupply. Their ability to endure massive pressure without losing key ground strengthens morale and international confidence in Kyiv's eventual victory. Strategically, the outcome of the offensive marks a turning point. Russia's capacity to sustain high-intensity operations is diminishing, its manpower pool is under strain, and the domestic narrative of progress is collapsing under the weight of facts. The Kremlin now faces the dilemma of whether to attempt yet another costly push or to settle into a prolonged war of attrition that it may not be able to afford. Each offensive that gains nothing weakens Russia not only militarily, but politically, eroding confidence within its own ranks and among its remaining allies. The war is entering a phase where momentum has largely shifted to the defender. For Moscow, the dream of rapid conquest has faded into a grinding struggle for minimal gains at catastrophic cost. For Kyiv, endurance has become victory by another name. President Zelensky. President Trump did not give a definite answer regarding Tomahawk missiles for Ukraine. He did not say yes, but he did not say no, the president said. I think that Putin is afraid that United States will deliver us Tomahawks, and I think that he is really afraid that we will use them. President Zelensky.
Did President Trump give you any assurances that the United States will give Ukraine Tomahawk missiles?
First of all, we need Tomahawks, and when we speak about long range, people have to understand. We use thousands of long-range drones, Ukrainian production, on military goals. But Russia uses not only drones of Iranian production, they use and also their production. Be honest, they have their drones, but also they use missiles of Russian productions and missiles long range of North Korea production. It's very difficult just to operate with Ukrainian drones. We need long range Tomahawks and similar. United States has similar things. We need it for mixed using, like Russia uses. It's understandable how it works. So our teams work on it, I said, and I'm honest. It's good that President Trump didn't say no, but for today didn't say yes.
He didn't say yes to Tomahawk missiles.
Yeah. I mean, this is a sensitive question, and messages from President that it's not enough for American interests, the number of you have. Yes, I can't share these details. I'm sorry, this is your internal questions, but I count on continuation of this dialogue.
In the beginning of the week, President Trump seemed open to giving Ukraine Tomahawk missiles. Then, after speaking to President Putin, he changed his tone. Do you think President Trump changed his tone about Tomahawk missiles after speaking with President Putin?
I don't know really, because we didn't meet before this phone call. But for today, it's good again that he didn't say no. Yes, but I think that it's, you know, what he understands, maybe understood after phone call. I don't know. I was not in during phone call. So, but I knew about it, that Tomahawks. It's very sensitive for Russians. They afraid that United States can deliver Ukraine. I think that Putin afraid that United States will deliver us Tomahawks. And I think that he really afraid that we will use, and he knows what military goals, we know where they are, where the military goals of Russia, and he afraid that we can use it. And that's why we are where we are.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.